Greetings and salutations, humans of Earth. Red Wild Rider once again with you. We're opening Commander decks from Dungeons and Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So, these are actually Dungeons and Dragons Commander, not even Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. That's interesting. Just noticed that. Alright, yep, pull tab on the bottom. Let's be smart about this. Let's also use the right side of the pull tab. Alright, there we go. Minor snafu, but accounted for. Still using this kind of big packaging, considering that, who's going to use these counters anyway? But, nice little box. I wonder about how much of that box space we could just get rid of right there. See right there. Don't need big bulky thing, but wasteful stuff. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into that. I'm going to try not to complain about it in the future openings here, but nice box. I will say that. They're getting good at making these boxes. About time. We have our spin down counter, which is, good to give to somebody who's just starting to play. And a piece of filler cardboard because, must have that. Our little play insert for the deck. Now, I'd open Dungeons of Death first because Dungeon is a new mechanic, is a big new mechanic in Adventures in Forgotten Realms. And it's kind of weird to have a deck built around a mechanic that's, there's only 3 dungeons and, they're either slow or painful or both. So, I'm curious to see how this would work out in the long run. But, in the meantime, let's take a look at cards old and new, and specifically talk about some of the newer cards. Where's the split that's usually in these things? Apparently, it's not anymore. I don't know. All right, I'll sort it out. That's a good place to leave it. Arcane Signet. Okay. Yep, perfect place. So, we have our new face of the deck commander, Sephiroth of the Hidden Ways. Costs Esper mana for a human wizard, 2/3. Whenever one or more creatures are put into your graveyard from anywhere, venture into the dungeon. This ability triggers only once each turn. And I don't like the fact that it only triggers once each turn. And you can, whenever you complete a dungeon, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, here's the thing. That only is going to happen every 3 times in the game, and you have to have Sephiroth on the table each of those 3 times for it to even matter. Because otherwise, you complete a dungeon and Sephiroth ain't on the field, you're not getting that. And that's kind of feel bad, because it's not like you could repeat a dungeon. Unless there's a card in the actual deck. I haven't looked at the new deck cards in the Commander decks yet. I've seen the set cards, obviously, but I haven't really looked at the Commander cards very closely. But that seems rather tough. And I'm sure that, especially if you put some dangerous things in your graveyard, your opponent's going to try to keep Sephiroth off the battlefield. Eventually, it's going to get too pricey to keep it on. So, yeah. Okay. Nihilor, 2 in Esper mana for a horror legendary. When it enters the battlefield for each opponent, tapped up to 1 untapped creature you control. When you do gain control of target creature, that player controls a power less than or equal to the tapped creature's power for as long as you control Nihilor. Now that's an interesting ability. That's very build around ability, but that's a very interesting ability. I like it. Whenever you attack with a creature, an opponent owns you gain 2 life, and that player loses 2 life. Oh, there's so many shenanigans I could see happening with this card. I mean, yeah, like this seems like a good card to build a commander deck around. Maybe I might do that for my Esper deck, but probably not Sephiroth. I'll say that much. So these cards are now Adventures of the Forgotten Realms cards. So I generally only talk about the rares and mythics from that group, but it seems like there's only 2, maybe 3. There's a dungeon map. Okay. This is a new card. It's got the AFC on it. Bucknard's Everfull Purse, 2 mana artifact. 1 mana, tap it, roll a d4 and create a number of treasure tokens equal to the result. The player to your right gains control of it. This could be interesting. And I know that player to your right is kind of good because it slows down how fast the tokens, the treasure tokens will accumulate on the board. But I can see it going to a player who's got a lot of treasure tokens. Like, yeah, I don't really need to tap it. I can just hold on to it and prevent everybody else from getting them. Which seems like it kind of screws over the guy who tried to use this to, be nice and get ahead. If you want to play political commander, this is probably pretty cool. But if you're not really into political commander very much, and I will confess I am not very much into political commander, unless I'm the one who's controlling the politics. but realistically, like, it's not that impressive. Okay. Clay Golem, another new card. Roll a d8, 6 mana. Ooh, that's. I like how they're using all the different dice. I also don't like how it's not focusing. So 4 mana, 4/4, and you pay 6 and roll a d8, and it's Monstrosity X, where X is the result. And when it becomes monstrous, destroy target permanent. All right, that's actually pretty decent. That's actually something that I could totally see playing in, like, maybe my Kozilek deck. This could be very handy, and I could certainly generate the mana very quickly. Any deck that makes a lot of mana will probably want to play this, because most likely you're going to make it monstrous, and you're probably going to get something pretty decent out of it. So, yeah, play Golem. Pretty decent. Component Pouch, another new card. Tap, remove a component counter from it. It's 3 mana, by the way. Tap, remove a component counter from it. Add 2 mana of different colors. Or you can tap and roll a d20. 1 and I puts 1 component counter on it. 10 and 20 puts 2 component counters. I like how they do the roll d20 stuff, and you're going to hear me talk about it when we see cards with that. I like how they implemented it with these splits where you can get, like, more out of it. Like the 1 to 9 gives you the average result, and the 10 to 20 is like, bonus. And some of them have the 10 to 19 and 20, which is even better. So, I like Component Pouch. I think certain decks are going to want to play it more than others. Like my Atraxa deck's definitely going to want to play this. Especially given that I could use 2 mana of different colors very often. And I could put multiple counters on it very easily, and I could proliferate those counters very easily. So, yeah, seems like that kind of deck would be perfect for a card like Component Pouch. And now we get some reprints. Running Unicorns for the Plowshares. See, I think these are all the uncommons and commons up here. I'm not going to go through those when we get to the rares. I like this Necrotic Sliver in here. It's almost as good as a rare. Because that's I think like $1 or something, probably still. Arcane Signet, always helpful. Commander Sphere, less useful. Okay, some rares now. And this is definitely a new one. Let me split this a little bit. Is that a good place to split? Oh yeah, it's right at Wayfarer's Bauble. Haha. So Immovable Rod. For 1 white mana, it's an artifact. You may choose not to untap it during your untap step. When it becomes untapped, venture into the dungeon. 3 and a white, and tap it for as long as it remains tapped. Another target permanent loses all abilities and can attack or block. Not for nothing, the fact that it says another target permanent. Because you could whap a Planeswalker with that, and yep, Planeswalker's done. So, yeah, there's some interesting things I think you could do with a Movable Rod. I really like it. I think it's a nice effect for white, and I hope white gets more stuff like this. That's perfectly fine. Another new card, Radiant Solar. 5 and white for an angel. 3/6, flying lifelink. Whenever it or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, venture into the dungeon. Now, that seems like you can get a lot of venturing done in the right deck. White and discard it, venture into the dungeon, and you gain 3 life. Well, if you play Reanimator, that's fine, which a lot of Angel decks can play that. There's some pretty good reanimation. Yeah, Radiant Soul is pretty solid. A little pricey for a 3/6, but it does give you some really strong abilities that you can use. So, yeah, good times, good times. Revivify. So 2 and a white instant, roll a d20 and add the number of creature cards in your graveyard that will put there from the battlefield this turn. 1 of 14, you return all those cards that were put there this turn to your hand. And 15 plus, you get them back to the battlefield. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's not quite Teferi's Protection, but it's a pretty decent, much less useful version of it, but still pretty damn good. And I think a lot of decks that run a lot of creatures are going to want to run Revivify. Anything that's doing like a mass creature card strategy is going to want to run it. So, solid card. Ah, yes. I remember seeing this card and saying, well, that just makes sense. Thorough Investigation, 2 white enchantment. Whenever you attack, investigate. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon. Yeah, seems alright. Clues give you access to the dungeon. Seems pretty good. Very flavorful. And if you're playing around with clues in dungeons, well, that works out. When you're playing around with clues, you can play around with dungeons if you get this. I mean, you're not going to go digging for it. But it's kind of a fun little thing. Another new card here, Arcane Endeavor. 5 and double blue. Roll 2d8 and choose 1 result. Draw cards equal to that result. Then you may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to the other result from your hand without paying its mana cost. This is a very interesting card. There's a lot of decks I could see just abusing the crap out of this card. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm thinking of a lot of them. I play a couple. That's pretty damn good. Yeah, I mean, I think its power is obvious in the fact that you get to choose, like, the most advantageous combination of the 2 numbers for your roll. Yeah, that seems pretty friggin' solid, not gonna lie. We get another new legendary monocolor, Min, Wily Illusionist. When we boop on it, please, camera. Thank you. For booping on the Gnome Wizard. 1 and double blue, 1/3. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, it's one of those guys. Create a 1/1 blue illusion creature token with this creature gets +1/+0 for each other illusion you control. Whenever an illusion you control dies, you may put a permanent card mana value less than or equal to that creature's power from you. Oh, yes. So she is the illusion tribal general. That's pretty interesting. Mono blue illusions. Because you could just keep on slapping down those illusions. One dice, I got another one for you. Another one dice, I got another one for you. And one more die, I got another one for you. Don't worry about it. You're all good. Phantom Steed, 3 and a blue. 4/3 Horse Illusion with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature you control until Phantom Steed leaves the battlefield. When it attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the exiled creature, except it's an illusion in addition to its other type. Sacrifice that token at the end of combat. Amazing, amazing, amazing. That is a great card if you're playing that illusion tribal deck that you can play with Min Wily Illusionist. That is fantastic. I can't say enough good things about that card. It's pretty damn cool. I mean, I'm just thinking of all the different creatures you can copy and how abusive it can be. I mean, granted, it has to attack, but you know something? We could do some attacking things, sure. Rod of Absorption. He said rod. 2 and a blue for an artifact. Whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, exile it instead of putting it into a graveyard as it resolves. Tap X, tap, and sacrifice it. You may cast any number of spells from among cards exiled with Rod of Absorption with total mana value X or less without paying the mana cost. What? What? That's totally absurd. That's so ridiculous. Oh my. I can see this card being really kind of bonkers. Takes your cards, takes your opponent's cards, doesn't matter. Pay a couple of mana, cast a couple of spells. It's fine. I see nothing wrong with this. I see only positives, only pluses. That is a good card. Grave Endeavors next. For 5 in double black. Instant roll 2d10 and choose one result. Return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the result. Then each opponent loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the other result. Once again, amazing. This card is just as good as the blue card that lets you do cool stuff when you have to choose between the two numbers. Come on. Come on. There's very few cases where you get screwed by this. You know, especially because zeros are tens. Wand of Orcus, 2 in a black. Legendary artifact equipment. Whenever equipped creature attacks or blocks, it and zombies you control gain death touch until end of turn. Okie dokie. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Wow, imagine this on a Grave Titan. Just imagine on a Grave Titan. That's all I need to say. I think I want to make that happen at some point. Seems pretty good. Oh, I saw the name for this card once, and I was like, I can only imagine what the hell that does. Extract Brain. X black and blue. Sorcery. Target opponent chooses X card from their hand. Look at those cards. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Well, that just seems kind of silly, too. I mean, you know, guy's only got 3 cards in his hand. You pay 5 mana, you get to cast one of those spells. One of them's probably pretty good. And you get to do it without paying its mana cost? Well, now. I mean, it's just silly. That's just silly. I love it. I love it. Great card. A lot of great cards in this, for at least the new cards. Midnight Pathfinder, 2 white and blue for a human wizard, 2/3. Creatures you control can't be blocked except by legendary creatures. Ooh, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, venture into the dungeon. Brago deck. This is going right into it. I mean, another way to make Brago hard to block. Sure enough, I mean, I'm totally in on that. Yeah, Midnight Pathfinder seems pretty good. You need a creature to get through. Well, Midnight Pathfinder is going to help. And now we're into the reprints, so I'm just going to flip through these pretty quickly. Cataclysmic Gearhulk is a staple in these decks. Eternal Dragon's nice to see reprinted. Karmic Guide, they reprint every chance they get now, I think. If that's what it feels like anyway. It feels like they reprinted it a bunch of times. But it's good. It needs reprints. Sometimes been reprinted a ton. It's a staple mythic in these. Sunblast Angel again. Champion of Wits, I hope this is in a cycle now. Like some of these cards where they get reprinted every so often in Commander decks. Same for Curator of Mysteries. Phantasmal Image, great with the illusions. Those things weren't illusions right now. Doom Necromancer, haha, cute. Necromantic Selection, good reprint. Anytime you reprint cards from another Commander deck, that's pretty solid. So I always approve of that. Ashen Rider, of course. Baleful Strix, yeah, Hostage Taker, nice. Utter End, it's another good quality reprint. Simulacrum's always good. Oh, and there's the land batch. Yes, let's talk about these rare lands. Excuse me. I got something to say. Please stop putting crappy rare lands and then back them up with mediocre rare lands. A land that you constantly reprint. I am choking on Exotic Orchards. Nimbus Maze, arguably the best colored rare land out of all of these. You know, especially once people start realizing that come on. We don't play with that many basic lands. We play with enough basic lands unless we have a very good reason to. But this is something that they keep repeating in these decks. They don't want to put good lands in here, and I get why they're afraid to do it. Because they think, oh, people are just going to buy the commander decks for the lands. Look, you're putting so many other good cards in here. We're not just going to buy them for the lands. You know, Felwar Stone is always a couple of bucks. Sol Ring's always a couple of bucks, no matter how many times they reprint it. Wayfarer's Bubble, they can't reprint that card enough. Because once you get one of these internet guys talking about one of those cards, you know, that's what happens. I think the rest of these are just commons and uncommons. I will say I do like they put the thriving lands in some of these decks. That's very helpful because especially with the early jumpstart accessibility problems. Lightning Greaves is a great reprint. They should reprint it more. And I like that they put the Dungeons & Dragons lands in here. I mean, obviously, I figured they would. And there's our thick boy, our extra thick commander. And the tokens, of which we get one token that's actually very unique and very special to this set, which is the Flip Dungeon. Lost Mine of Fendelver on one side, one camera boops, that would be nice. And Dungeon of the Mad Mage on the other side. The other one is obviously Tomb of Annihilation with the card that it makes the Atropel on the other side. But yeah, so they actually made one flip card. Now I know in the regular boosters we're going to see that it's going to be Dungeon on one side and there's a specific card on each other side. A specific token, and I know Tomb of Annihilation is the Atropel. I forget if it's Dungeon of the Mad Mage has the Skeleton token, and the Mine has the Goblin token, or so. I don't know which way that worked out. But yeah, there's a couple of other double-sided tokens here, some illusions with various black creatures on the other side, skeleton, zombies, and Champion of Wits. And a couple of clue tokens with treasures on the other side, except for one that's got a goblin. Because of the dungeon. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk about the playability of the deck because the whole point of the deck is that they're playable really against each other, but they're not playable as a, you know, like, oh, I could take this and sit down in a commander game. Like, yeah, maybe some commander games you can. I'll tell you right now, most of the ones I play in, no, you can't. It'd be pretty difficult to do that. But yeah, you know, it's good that they're getting some good reprints in these, and that's one of the things I'm going to point out. When they reprint cards that need reprinting, it's always worth pointing out. Because it's good they reprint them. I mean, Swords to Plowshares, they keep reprinting it. Fine. Everybody wants to play Swords to Plowshares in a lot of different formats. Wall of Omens, it's a great control card. People want to play it. Muldrifter. You do a lot of fun things. That Propaganda is a great card to constantly reprint. Fine, go ahead. Plaguecrafter, same thing. This is great to reprint. Reassembling Skeletons, Shriekmaw, Unburial Rites. These are all good cards to reprint. You know, and obviously got great cards like Necrotic Sliver. But having said that, there's obvious subsets of cards that they just don't reprint. And that's a little bit annoying. But other than that. So that's it for the first of my Commander Deck videos on Dungeons of Death. I'll be back very soon with another video. Thank you all for watching. And look forward to seeing you guys next time around. All the YouTube stuff, you know. Please, subscribers. I haven't forgotten about my promise about the subscriber goal. Just waiting to hit it. Somebody finally put me past 69. Thank you. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm not talking anymore. I'm done. See you on the next video. Peace. I'm out.